second part in this remote communication series. If you missed the first one, we're talking about why you cannot consider remote communication as simply a variation of in-person communication. Basically, do the same thing, but just in front of a camera. But you need to consider a few major differences to communicate effectively. I boiled it down to 4, different in subject, in attention, in channels, and in spontaneity. We covered subject last time, and now I want to focus very briefly on attention. Why is this relevant, if you're asking? Because as a manager or a manager of managers, you will have to consider that from now onwards, you're never probably going to go back to communicating in person. And you're always going to be communicating in a remote first setup or in a hybrid setup. So having these 4 major differences in mind will allow you to have more chances that your message lands and that you have a better relationship with your team. 2 key areas for any manager in any sector. That said, I want to talk briefly about attention. And there is a huge amount of topics we could be talking about in this area. We can talk about top-down attention, bottom-up attention, how to grab it, how to maintain it, what tools and skills we want to use. But on all of this, I want to focus on the most relevant one. The fact that the competition for the person you're talking to's attention is extremely fierce. You are not a person. You are a little square on the screen of that person, and you're trying to grab that person's attention. And in the meantime, this person is being bombarded by pop-ups, by phone notifications, by people knocking at his or her door. And in general, if you want to stick to computers, by a set of algorithms whose only function is to grab that person's attention. Seriously, think about emails coming in, notifications on your phone, reminders, all of that. So to compete with that, you have very, very little. So it's worth clearing out what that little is and what you can do to give yourself a chance. So first things first, my main suggestion for you is get some better equipment. And it can simply be a small upgraded camera from what you currently are using from your laptop. Why do we want to do this? Because in general, and you can quote Thinking Fast and Slow about it, the book by Kahneman, we in general like things that are clear and easy for us to understand and see. So the clearer the image and the sound that you manage to send over to the other person, the easier to understand whatever message you're trying to convey will be. And that's something major, and that's something that only some basic new equipment could do. So after that, you can build up a whole studio, but it doesn't really matter. The main difference from nothing to something will be a basic new camera. Connected to this, try to work out how you can be as succinct as possible and as clear as possible communicating to the other person. Why? Same reason. Actually, 2 reasons. First one, the clearer you are, the easier the message will be for the other person. And I mean clearer in diction and clearer in how you phrase the message. And if it's easier, the other person will be more welcoming to retaining those pieces of information. And second, if you manage to be succinct, it means that you actually can use less time. And the less time you manage to use for your message, the more focus from the other person you can count on. And third, remember to find a way, and we'll see how in the next video, to convey some emotion to the other side of the camera. Nothing connects people more than an emotional connection. And it can be anything. It can be joy, it can be anger, it can be regret, it can be anything, but Emotions are a huge part of how we relate to each other. If I think back of my theater days, emotions are a huge part of how you grab the crowd's attention. Same thing here. There is a lot to discuss about this, and we're going to see it in the next part of this mini-series. So far, remember or keep in mind, think about getting a new camera and think about how you can make your message as succinct as possible. It's going to greatly improve how your manager feels connected to you and how your team, feels connected to you and how you are going to be perceived as a manager. What do you think? Thank you. Stay safe. Talk soon.